Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, and this video is going to be a little unusual in that this is going to contain what I essentially consider spoilers. If you are someone that is generally like me, in that I usually do my best to avoid getting information ahead of its planned announcement, just because I think there is a ton of fun to be found in covering announcements only when they have been, actually announced, just because it protects you from a couple things, especially doing what I do for video work. If you cover something that has been leaked or spoiled or whatever you want to call it, information has gotten out ahead of schedule, it can be a little problematic sometimes to cover it because A, the information might be false and therefore you're, giving credence to a rumor or some information that is not true. But more importantly, B, it's always subject to change. So if you end up covering something heavily that, goes out or has been spoiled, and for whatever reason it needs to change, not because they're actively like, oh, we want to avoid people knowing what we're up to, but more because maybe an issue came up, or they weren't able to allocate as many resources as they wanted to a particular project or idea, yada yada yada. The thing changes, and then suddenly you're sit there being like, well, why isn't it like I saw, even though what I saw wasn't ready to be released to the public, so really, it's my fault, not their fault. But anyway, this video is going to be talking about some stuff that normally I wouldn't cover because I try to stay away from leaks. However, the subject matter is such a big deal and is so important that I feel like not covering it is I just can't justify that. So I'm going to, much to my annoyance, kind of step over my principles on this particular matter and talk about it because I find it just too interesting not to talk about, frankly, and it's going to have a massive impact on a lot of expectations of things that are coming up, which I actually think is a good thing in this instance, because it's a very... I'm dancing around it, but essentially, if you do not want to be spoiled, if you do not want to receive information that has leaked ahead of schedule, if you're like, no, I want to wait for Creative Assembly to announce it on their own time, then don't watch this video. Just click off. Stop right now and go away. I will definitely make a video about it when the actual information is released. But, like I said, I have thought very carefully about this particular instance and have decided that it should be an exception to the rule. So, if everyone who wants to avoid leaks and spoilers in case that information changes or what have you has left the room, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, there was an interesting leak, an unfortunate leak, but an interesting leak, in that somebody who is either a tester or a media place that got some of the screenshots, who knows what, but somebody basically took a bunch of screenshots of unit cards within Total War Warhammer 3 and posted them online. And these ended up getting, I think they circulated onto Reddit, but they definitely circulated into my DMs for some people who saw them. And the one that really caught my attention the most is this one, which shows something that I genuinely did not expect. I was 100% not expecting this to happen, and I am quite frankly super duper excited that it is happening, which is that we are getting God-specific Beastmen. So in Total War Warhammer 3... not Total War Warhammer 2, we are going to be seeing Beastmen that have the marks of various gods showing up in the monogod races. And the screenshot that we have gotten, that I'm showing you now, shows Minotaurs that have the mark of Khorne. So they're all cornified, and they have, heated up fiery blades, and they're all red and muscly and bloody and stuff. And they look beautiful. And I am so excited for this. Because, honestly, when news... I've had a very good, strong feeling, that Beastmen were going to be the last DLC. And I was genuinely one of the people that was really hoping that as part of the free LC or DLC for the Beastmen, that we were going to get a type of God Beastman for the regular Beastman race. So I was sitting there going, okay, please let us get Korngors, Slongors, Pestigors, and Zongors as part of the Beastmen. Like, let them get these elite units to fill out the roster a little bit. I really, really want to see them. But I knew it probably wasn't going to happen because that's a lot of different kinds of units to get stuffed into a Lord pack. But then this happened. And this is crazy exciting because this isn't just that. These are Minotaurs. Korngors, Pestigors, Zongors, and Slongors are not Minotaurs. They are essentially Bestigors, but they are Beastmen that are, dedicated to each specific god, and they're supposed to have unique gimmicks. However, these are Minotaurs, which means that the Khorne faction is likely going to have multiple units of Beastmen that have been Khornified. So if you look at, say, essentially what this means is that the mono god factions, Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, have been taken using the Legions of Chaos army from the End Times. Is basically the way I would introduce people to the concept. Which the Legions of Chaos are essentially an army that popped up, I believe, in the second book in the End Times, Glotkin, which was essentially designed to allow you to take mono Nurgle armies, but obviously it had the rules for all the gods. So if you wanted to take just mono whatever, you could. But what it did that was unusual is that it took us back and opened up the rules to allow you to not just take mortals and demons together, but beastmen, mortals, and demons together. So many beastmen units suddenly became available, and you could design your army to do all sorts of crazy, amazing stuff beyond just mortals. And it seems that's what they're doing in Total War Warhammer 3. And I am so immensely excited about this. Where it's not just, like, this roster is going to be huge, man. Like, we don't know what all Beastmen units are going to be added to Khorne. Even if they decide to just go with, like, if they just keep it really basic, and they're like, okay, you can have Gore Herds, Ungor Herds, Minotaurs, maybe a giant, a Chaos Giant, and we'll give you like a Wargore and some kind of Lord, maybe. I doubt they'll go so far as a Lord, but we'll give you like a Wargore or something. That would be incredible, because that is already adding a bunch of frankly unnecessary but amazing stuff to the roster. So I am shocked by this news, but ultimately incredibly excited, because it just means that these rosters are going to be fat, and I mean fat. And I honestly just couldn't be happier. I could not be happier, and I am so incredibly excited to see how crazy they're going to go with it. I mean, even if they just if you're looking at it from a tabletop perspective, if they decide to just use the units of Beastmen that can have marks, so the units of Beastmen that you could dedicate to a specific god, even then you're looking at pretty much all the characters. You're looking at Gore Herds, generic characters. Then for units, you're looking at Gore Herds, you're looking at Tuskor Chariots, Ungor Herds, Ungor Raiders, Minotaurs, Centaurs, the Giant, and I think that's everything. None of the monsters could take marks outside the Giant. So there were not god specific Jabberslights or Gorgons or Cygors. You couldn't Razor Gores obviously could not take marks. Bestigors could mark. Bestigors of course could take marks, which gave you the god specific Bestigors. And you also could not mark Harpies, and you could not mark Razor Gore Chariots. Yes you could. Yes, I clicked on the wrong button. I'm looking at one of my old programs that has this expanded list in it. But so pretty much anything that was a Ungor, a Gore, or a Minotaur, or anything that had them as a part of the model, could take marks. And Centaurs. Which is just, like, if they decided to go that far with it, then this roster is going to be so huge, man. Like, good lord. But I have to say I could not be happier with this decision. Being able to take truly unified chaos in that you're bringing in the Beastmen, the mortals or the warriors, and the demons all together back into the like OG legions of chaos, I think is absolutely fantastic. I will say the only thing that I hope regarding this news is that we are going to hopefully see them allow certain versions of these models, say at least the Khorngors, Pestigors, Zongors, and Slongors, if they have really unique models. Hopefully those do become available to you in Total Warhammer 3, even if you're playing the regular Beastmen. Just like I hope if you're playing Archaon or Kolek Suneater as the regular Warriors of Chaos, that you get access to Khorne-specific units that you can't have otherwise, like Skull Crushers of Khorne. I don't think they need to... I don't think they need to, like, completely break their backs and try to allow you to, like, have genuinely marked units while you're also playing Undivided. I think that's way too much to ask for, and if you're wanting that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And it's just... I think it's ridiculous to ask that, because the rosters for those races would just be gargantuan to have, like, okay, not only do I have Minotaurs, but then I also have the option to go with Khorne Minotaurs, Tzeentch Minotaurs, Nurgle Minotaurs, and Slaanesh Minotaurs. And do that for, like, every single unit in the roster. That would be idiotic to ask for that. That just sounds like just an unholy amount of work to try and get that all to function. But if they come out and say, okay, so, you know, most of the units are just essentially, they are the same models, but they've been changed up a little bit. Like, they look a little different. They have a couple of unique rules, you know. But there's the Undivided version, which are the classics, and then you have your God-specific ones. But if they were to come out and say, okay, however, the Khorngors, Pestigors, Zongors, and Slongors do exist as part of the God rosters, and they are really unique. So they have unique weapons, maybe they have completely unique models. So the Zongors have, like, the bird beaks from the Age of Sigmar, the Slongors are the ones from Age of Sigmar where they have, like, the giant crab claws and stuff. So it's like, okay, we have these really fancy models that have the actual names of the Khorngor, Slongor, Pestigor, Zongor. These will then become available as to kind of spice up your Undivided armies. Just like if I'm playing as the Undivided Warriors of Chaos, I would really like to have access to some of the God-specific elite units that don't have a generic counterpart. So I want access to Skull Crushers. I want access to the Hellseekers, I think that's what they're called, Hellseekers of Slaanesh. You know, and stuff like that. I think that would do a lot to give those rosters a little bit of spice while still helping them keep their identity as Undivided. You know, like, okay, I can have a couple of elite units, but I'm not going to be, like, designing an entire Khorne army around while playing Undivided Beasts of Chaos, or Beastmen. So, yeah, I just wanted to make a video speaking about this particular thing, my thoughts on it. I think that it's a very exciting announcement, and I will say, the reason that I'm talking about it right now instead of ignoring it like I generally do with leaks is for one reason. And that is because of the DLC for the Silence and the Fury. I genuinely was of the opinion that I was going to be really disappointed if the DLC did not contain, as part of its free LC or DLC for the Beastmen, the God-specific guys, the God Beastmen. But now that I know they're in Game 3, I no longer expect it, because I already know where it is. I know where... I'm now, hoping that we'll get to see that when Game 2 and Game 3 are combined a little bit into Game 3's life cycle. So that's ultimately the reason I decided to consider this an exception, because it has a dramatic impact on my expectations and my thoughts about the new DLC, which of course I'm going to be making quite a few videos about. So I hope you're all excited about this. I'd love to know what y'all think and how y'all feel about everything I've said today. I imagine there are going to be some people that disagree with me when it comes to my thoughts that Undivided should not have access to like God-specific versions of every single unit in their army. But in any event, I'd love to know what y'all think about this. Are you excited? Does this make you more excited? Or do you not really care? But do let me know in the comment section down below. And there's just tons and tons and tons of stuff coming out. And man, it's an exciting time to be a Warhammer Fantasy fan, my dude. It's an exciting time. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.